All right, welcome. It is December 10th, Tuesday, December 10th, 2024. Nice to see everyone that I can see uh, from far and wide. We're covering a lot of time zones uh, here. And so, uh, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And we will start with a period of meditation and then a bit of a Dharma reflection. So just settling back. Yes. Thank you, Johnny. With you on that. All right. Let's so just settling into whatever is a comfortable posture for you, but being aware of how your posture affects your mind state and your energetic state. So the risk in getting too comfortable is that we get sleepy. Um, And that's not to discourage you from being comfortable, just to be aware of, any kind of sleepiness or dullness that might take over. And you can close your eyes. I can see many of you have. I've still got mine open, kind of, and but you don't have to close your eyes if you. Some people don't feel comfortable closing the eyes, so just bring the attention into the body, though, to start. Feeling yourself. If you can, just in a general sense, feeling the body, feeling your body sitting. You're not used to doing this. It might be sort of difficult to figure it out, but once you get used to it, you'll find that it's quite interesting to just feel your whole body as an energetic system, as a sense system. The Buddha talks about this. There's the traditional four elements: the heaviness, the temperature, coolness, warmth, the fluidity, and the movement of air. And it's not so much that we're trying to distinguish these different elemental aspects of experience, but just to notice that there are a variety of different types of sensations you can perceive, and just breathing with all of that. And indeed, the breath then comes more to the forefront, feeling the breath in the body. And again, there are different aspects of the experience of breath. There could be the touch of air, the nostrils. It can be the movement of body, rising, falling, expanding, contracting. when things get very quiet and settled, you can start to actually perceive the amount of effort it takes to make a breath. Very often, the effort to pay attention to the breath is interrupted by thinking, the stream of thoughts that often follows us through the day continues even as we sit and try to calm the body and mind a bit. It's a natural part of this process. We don't demonize our thoughts. And the most common guidance is to let go of thoughts, return to the breath. And we can also experience thoughts on a more felt level as expressions of energy, feeling the pull, the thrust of thinking, grasping, solving, perhaps sensing the underlying anxiety or other mood energy that keeps regenerating thoughts. Not to, again, demonize this, but just to breathe with it, allow it, greet it with kindness. And this is the experience of being in a mind and body, powerful, powerful engine, this human experience. To hold it with love, with care, patience. Okay. Good morning again, or whatever time of day it is. Yes. Um, I don't often buy just sort of like commercial uh, Dharma books. That there's so many that get produced, and I've read a lot over the years, but these days I tend to get stuff that's more sutta based or something of that nature, something more, you know, study oriented. But I was at my local independent bookstore, Pegasus, on Solano Avenue, and picked up this book by Daniel Goleman and Tsoknyi Rinpoche. Um, and it's called Why We Meditate. I'm going to put Tsoknyi's name in here because it's not a common Western name. So Rinpoche is just, as most of you know, just a honorific and supposedly somebody who's a reincarnated Lama. But Tsoknyi is actually very well known in the insight world as well. Um, but he's mostly known for teaching Dzogchen practice. I'll put that in here too. Why not? Uh, which is a very advanced kind of Tibetan Buddhist meditation practice that kind of has to do with, I mean, the little I know about it, I could say something like it has to do with experiencing or becoming aware of emptiness, something like along those lines, sort of consciousness itself, being aware of consciousness. And so, um, so typically very high teachings, but Daniel Goleman may also be familiar to you. He's the author of Emotional Intelligence and a longtime Buddhist practitioner who has done a lot of work on the science side of meditation. And the way the book is designed, Tsoknyi gives teachings, and then Daniel Goleman gives like the scientific take on what he's teaching, which is pretty interesting. But that wasn't what drew me to it. I opened the book up and I came upon uh, this. Uh, I must have just been standing there in the bookstore and caught like something about this page where he says, many thoughts are rooted in the feeling world. And he was talking about his own life and some of his own struggles. He says, when I was having that problem with negative thoughts as a teenager, it was not just about thoughts. It was coming from a deeper issue in the feeling world. At the time, I was dealing with it mainly as a mind issue, not working with the feelings underneath. I didn't have a good understanding of the feeling world and how it works, how so many thoughts are rooted in the feeling world. So, for those who've been following along with me for the last time, you won't be surprised that got my attention because we're here, this Tibetan teacher who's like normally associated with these sort of advanced meditative practices and sort of uh, high states is talking really about the very topic that's really been my main theme for quite a while now, which is the connecting on the feeling level. So it's interesting that he kind of, and then he encountered Goleman's wife, Tara Bennett Goleman, is a psychotherapist who is kind of a leader in the world of connecting Eastern and Western psychology. So Tsoknyi Rinpoche apparently spent a lot of time talking with her about like these ideas and trying to kind of understand Western psychology and Westerners. He encounters, these meditators who struggle and he didn't really have in his own framework, he didn't have a way of understanding sort of the Western uh, emotional challenges. And so eventually he develops this, as as is always seems to be true in these books, and sort of develops a system, but of working with this stuff. But he has this term he calls our difficult feelings beautiful monsters, which is an interesting intake, and typically sort of like it's a monster, but it's beautiful. We're not going to like be overwhelmed. Um, and then he has this method he calls a handshake practice, which is really about what? Being with, making friends with the difficult feelings, right? And and he has as we seem to run into again with these kind of books, it kind of this reminds me of the rain system that many of you are familiar with from that Tara Brach particularly is known for, recognize, accept, investigate, and then there's debate over N, nurture or non-identify, depending on your stance at the moment. So he has 4 steps, which are meeting the feeling, being with it, waiting, and I'll go back. I'll come back to this, and communicating. So it's like again, kind of a process of engaging with the feelings. But the thing that really grabbed my attention here was that he has a little section called the obstacles to handshake. So the obstacles to being with our experience. And here they are: suppressing, ignoring, indulging, and antidoting. Suppressing, ignoring, indulging, and antidoting. So when I read this, a bell went off in my mind because, first of all, yeah, I get it, right? These are, um, in terms of like being present with a difficult feeling, the things that get in the way are suppressing the feelings, ignoring it. We're familiar with that, right? And all of this, of course, connects with addiction, indulging it, just letting it out, or antidoting it, right? Like I'll come up with a way of like turning it off. But why the bell that went off? And there's a few of you here who will be interested in this. There is a famous sutta called the Removal of Distracting Thoughts, Majjhima Nikaya number 20. And in it, there are 5 strategies the Buddha suggests for working with difficult thoughts. And they include suppressing, ignoring, and antidoting. So 3 of these 4 obstacles are things that the Buddha recommended for working with difficult thoughts. So immediately we're thrown into like, uh-oh, who's right? Is the Buddha wrong? Is Tsoknyi Rinpoche wrong? And of course, as Buddhists, we're like, no, that's not really how we approach things. We ask the question of, can they both be right? And so, which comes from, to me, in a sense, the middle way. What's the middle way of looking at this? So the middle way of looking at this is that what the Buddha is talking about is things that are really unmanageable. They're not responding to a gentle, oh, I'll just come back to the breath, or even I'll just feel this feeling. As I'll meet this with a handshake. They are things that are being swept away with. And so the Buddha recommends this antidote, which is replacing with something more wholesome. I'm getting really angry. Oh, let me bring some loving kindness into that. Um, this is like, I'm really getting sucked into this craving. That like I'm just going to look away from it. I'm going to ignore it right now. I'm just going to move somewhere else. Or the fifth one is the one where the Buddha says, even like like a strong man would beat down a weak man, that we just suppress it. He says, suppressing mind with mind, you know. And so these are actual strategies for managing things that are almost unmanageable. But so in any case, I thought that was like really got my attention because boy, it's pretty rare that you find like a direct contradiction between between a Buddhist teacher and the Buddha. Yeah. Anyway, I want to go through though this strategy he has, which I think um, is very helpful. I may steal it, my own teaching. So, uh, so he's got this in the first chapter. He's got this thing called dropping, which is kind of like a physical thing where you raise your arms up and it's kind of a way of getting into your body. But it's a bit aggressive for me, but uh, um, okay. So after we this is basically say like after you've settled into your meditation, your step one is meeting. Allow awareness to gently pervade the feeling world. Open awareness to moods, feelings, and emotions. Don't hold any goal, any aim. Just meet whatever feelings and emotions are there. Don't look for anything special, pleasant, or sublime. Just be with what is arising. If you feel lousy, be with that. If you feel anxious, be with that feeling. If you feel angry or tense or tired, be with those feelings and relax into them. If you feel great, peaceful, and relaxed, just be with that too. If you can't feel anything, just be with the numbness or be with the peace. And the next thing, so that's it's kind of highlighted, they like boxed off that first instruction. He then says, feelings and emotions come and go on their own time. We don't have to look for them. They are always changing, pleasant to unpleasant to pleasant again. Rather than wrestling with each changing feeling, we are just meeting them and allowing whatever comes without an agenda. So I think you guys are pretty familiar with that instruction. I think it's nicely, specific. So step two, being, stop looking away, stop hiding, turn toward it, touch it, feel it, listen to it. As you adopt this attitude, you are allowing raw feelings to emerge. There is nothing special to do except be with them. So this is, he's supposedly making different steps. It seems like this is the same thing, but just more of the same. But whatever. I'm not here to critique. Don't suppress, don't avoid, don't indulge, and don't apply an antidote. We have been doing those things for far too long. It hasn't helped much. So let's just try something different. Just being. Being is not fixing. We tend to think being means being with something, but you can also just be without an object. Just be with being itself. So that there he's getting at the kind of Dzogchen approach, right? We're there's not even an object. It's just the consciousness itself. Step three, waiting. Continue to practice being. It's really just all the same thing, right? Give it some time. Don't rush into anything. There is nothing to accomplish. You are making friends, and it takes time. You're making friends with your feelings. Once you can be, just keep being and wait. Waiting is also kindness, compassion. Practice patience. Here, patience doesn't mean an agenda like I'll be patient with you until you go away and leave me alone. Such an agenda can sidetrack the practice. Here, patience means you can stay as long as you want. I don't care anymore whether you stay or go. We're friends now. Reminds me, I was listening to a Dharma talk from Ajahn Amaro recently, and he was talking about patience as being stepping out of time, that you're not thinking about what's happening as happening on a timeline, but not. Yeah, so it's interesting. Okay, step 4, and I believe this is the last step. Communicating, talking to your beautiful monsters. Once you're able to just be with your beautiful monsters, they may start to warm up, open up. Actually, they want to be friends. They want to be free. They may even ask a question. Then you can actually communicate. You gently tell them, it's real, but not true. Your feeling is real. Your pain is real, but your narrative is not true. And they will listen. Your pain is real, but your narrative is not. Well, that kind of sums it all up, right? As we say, feelings are not facts. So the name of this book is Why We Meditate. Sort of an odd name for a book, but anyway. uh, if you're interested, I haven't got that's as far as I've gotten, but I'll tell you what the next chapter is because I'm interested to look at it. It's called Essence Love. So it sounds like we're going to get into compassion after this, which sounds good. So, it's kind of striking for me, it's like a little, Kevin oriented. Um, Thoughts aren't facts either. Oh, that's good. Thank you. Um, it's kind of striking for me that, I had a burst of writing on this topic that's kind of, I, I haven't been working on it lately, but part of what I was saying when I was writing was, I don't think this topic has really been addressed and that it in quite the way that I'm addressing it. And now I'm like, oh boy, maybe a lot of people are talking about this and I just don't pick up enough Dharma books. Um, in any case, it's particularly striking, as I say, to see a Tibetan Rinpoche step into this very raw, world of feeling that's not, about some initiation or some advanced practice, but it's really just about being in a body and a mind and holding what arises there in a skillful and wholesome way, in a compassionate way. And uh, what I mean, I think that he's expressing this stuff very well, and I think it's difficult to express. Um, and, at least I've found it difficult to talk about, to write about. And I will critique just a little bit. It's not even meant to be criticism, but just to see that even in this sort of system that he has, it's still it's it's still hard to quite get your hand on it. It's almost like you have to know before you know type of thing, which is rough, right? You have to understand before you understand. That is to say, you have to experience this before the words are going to make a lot of sense. And this is why we have to practice. We have to practice meditation and just ask the simple question, what am I feeling? Oh, and that can even be even a more simple question of what is feeling. And so this is something that I'm addressing in my own writing is trying to break down the distinctions, you know, as he says, that, the narrative isn't real. So to me, the narrative was what arises when something turns into a full-fledged emotion. Or we could say the emotion is what arises when the narrative attaches itself to the feeling. But so this is the distinction I'm making, and it's just my way of trying to talk about it, because I don't think there's a like technical distinction we can draw, but that the feeling doesn't really have a name or an identity or a story attached, and then emotion. So, because it's when we use the word feeling, we use that uh, when we're talking about emotions. And so the difficulty for me in talking about this, it's not a difficulty in practicing it because it's very clear to me the distinction, but the difficulty in talking about it is how can I talk about feeling and say I'm not talking about emotion? What's the difference? And the prime difference that I can come up with is that there is a story or a narrative, even simpler, that there is a name uh, in that's attached to an emotion, whereas a feeling is pre-verbal, and it's the idea, I think, is that it's when we move into the verbal world, when we move into the conceptual world, that things become problems, that they can be held just in the way Tsoknyi is talking about as raw feeling and met with kindness, and they don't have to be processed or figured out. They just felt, just be with, and that then they will self-transform because they have to keep changing, and so they're going. And I will say that attention itself has a transformative quality, right? This is the quantum physics quality of this. As soon as you put attention on something, it changes, and the attention. And so I think it is really important. And so that if the next chapter is essence love, it is really important that the quality of attention that we bring to feeling contains kindness, or is at least neutral, because it's very easy for that attention to be judgmental, right? Aversive in some subtle way. But that if we can if we have again, train ourselves to bring compassion, uh, to have a sense of kindness as we hold whatever is arising, then the beautiful monsters, stop being monsters. Um, so I think it's an interesting to see someone approaching this and see how he is talking about it, and the techniques. And I think my reference to the sutta number 20, Majjhima Nikaya 20, is more of a sidebar here, but for the sutta nerds in the audience, that's an interesting one to just see. So I'm gonna leave it at that for now, and open it up for any reflections, any questions, comments. Hello, Vicky.
Hiya.
Hi.
Yeah, great stuff. Great stuff. And I love this, that it doesn't have to be one's right and the other's wrong. It's that intuitive, it's a skillful means, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's right.
intuition and program. Yeah. And developing this sense. Some years ago, I bumped into, during a very hard time, I was sober, but whew, hanging on by the fingernails, right? And
Mhm.
this somebody gave me a book, and it was Feeding Your Demons. It's
Yeah.
again Tibetan.
Saltram Alioni.
Alioni, right? And
Sure.
boy, the beautiful monsters and the demons. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, what that book is um, you meet the demon and you hop into a cauldron and melt yourself down into a beautiful soup and feed the demon. And I was doing this with some more skilled people than I, and holy cow, it was great. You know, it was really powerful. You know, this compassionate. You know, these beings, these beautiful monsters. You know, they need feeding. You know, they're just so hungry. So it reminded me, you know, as you were talking about, you know, the befriending of these beautiful monsters. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're
Thanks,
welcome.
Vicky. Yeah. Beautiful. Jimmy, hi.
Hey, Kevin. Yeah, thanks. That was really interesting. I don't know if it makes much difference, but I kind of noticed it seemed like the Buddha was talking more about thoughts and the Rinpoche was talking more about feelings.
Right, right. Good point.
I'm wondering if maybe if we can address those thoughts in those ways first, it doesn't come into a feeling. Once it hits the feeling stage, maybe address it the way the Rinpoche does, so it doesn't become a full-fledged emotion. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Well, my sense is that feelings come before thoughts, and that not necessarily though. In fact, you're right. You're right. Sometimes, you know, a thought arises and it triggers a feeling. So actually, no, I'll take it back. There's a, they are,
Kind of feedback loop kind of thing.
yes, they're in conversation. Yeah, they're in relationship,
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
well, just to say that also sensations in the body are part of the conversation. So it's um, one of the ways I describe this is like a roundabout where a bunch of roads come together, right? And I put feeling in the middle, but you could put anything in the middle, right? And that you know, coming into the roundabout is thoughts, sensations, emotions, and experiences as well, things that happen to us, like relationships and all that. And that traffic goes in and out. It goes both ways. And but anyway, was there more
Yeah, just one other thing. I remember reading a children's book way back when, something about where the wild things are.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if, when you say beautiful monsters,
Mm-hmm.
for some reason that book popped up into my mind. I'm wondering
Yeah.
if that's how he's kind of dealing with his feelings to some. I don't know. I can't remember so long
No,
ago.
I think you're exactly right. It's what is it, Shelf Silverstein? Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. They made a movie out of it too.
Right. Thanks.
Yeah. Thank you. Virginia.
It's Maurice Sendak, actually.
Oh, Maurice Sendak. Thank you. That I hate being wrong. I mean, I hate spreading misinformation. So thank you. Being wrong is, if I hated being wrong, I'd really just hate myself constantly. So I don't mind being wrong, but I really appreciate being corrected. Thank you. Virginia, hello. Maurice Sendak.
Hello. Yeah, a great talk, great Dharma talk. And I'm wondering if you could repeat the steps. I know, meeting the feeling, but
Yeah.
can you repeat the
Mm-hmm.
aspects of the steps? I didn't write it
Absolutely.
down.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's gone
Thank you.
already.
Sure. Meeting, being. So I guess you meet it and then you kind of stop doing anything. Waiting and communicating.
Okay. Now I'm writing it down.
Okay, good. John, I notice you
Thank
asking
you.
about, yeah, you're welcome. I thank you, John A, for asking. Tonight, I will be at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery. So anybody in the Bay Area is welcome, more invited to please join us in our little Buddhist recovery gathering, 7:30 p.m. at the Berkeley Buddhist Monastery, 2304 McKinley Avenue, Berkeley. I don't know why I'm able to. Speaking of memory, that address just sticks in my mind. Of course, everybody kind of remembers their phone number from when they were 5 years old too. So there's that. Um, any other questions? Anyone else want to jump in with anything? Oh yeah, Anne, please. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Hi. Good morning.
Uh,
I don't know. I just feel like sharing this because now we go into a meditation and we carry something.
Yeah.
Often, not always, but so this morning, and it's like this tight grip in my heart. I had a long conversation with insurance.
Oh,
Health, right?
yeah.
And so maybe people can relate to this.
Yes. Well,
How
it's
do you
been in
feel
the
right
news.
now?
Yeah.
And it's something I've been dealing with for a few months now. And so I sort of carry that in, and as I'm kind of following the instructions, and I'm breathing with the tightness in my chest. I'm identifying resentment, anger, but then I'm also identifying not being heard or other underneath the resentment and the fear. There's fear, and there's fear of feeling not safe or in some flavor.
Mm.
And I'm like, wow, the breathing with is not doing anything, right? Which is another interesting.
Right.
But then I'm like, okay, I'm just being with, right? Just let go. And then I just started to notice other areas of my body that could relax,
Mm.
right? And it ended up, it's still here, this little fist in my heart. But I was just noticing that within awareness, there's other elements in the body that can soften the energy around the feeling.
Mm.
An intense feeling, pretty intense this morning.
Yeah.
So beautiful. I also had the image when you're talking of a parent holding the hand of a child. Just this kind, attentive, devotional aspect to being with ourselves, and it takes time, right? And patience and practice and teachings, and keep coming back to the teachings because it just unfolds in a beautiful. It's been an uncomfortable week since I came back from Thanksgiving. So anyway,
Oh, yeah.
so this is really helpful to sort of,
Mm.
attend to this, as Greg would say, this one,
Mm. Yeah.
So thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. I was thinking about explaining why I teach meditation, particularly in this class, the way I do. And actually, it's generally the way I do it, which is that I talk for a while and then I stop. Occasionally, I'll toss in something, okay, but most times I just stop. And the reason I stop is that I think that we have to solve it for ourselves, the inner experience, and navigate it for ourselves. And whatever I say, it doesn't solve it for you. It doesn't, and you have to hang out and be with the discomfort largely. I mean, that I don't know how many people have a really comfortable, like organically comfortable inner life, right? Like just like as soon as they just close their eyes, they're just like, oh yeah, this is so nice, and that I think most people, and maybe it's just the people I hang out with, but when we stop and close our eyes, that there's stuff, if you want to call them beautiful monsters or, uh, whatever, demons to feed,
Mhm.
feelings, I give them a more generic name, feelings, energies. And they're just, that's why I rebel a little bit with the like step-by-step process, here's the letter, follow these letters and these things. It's like, yeah, that's a good guide, but again, it's just up here and it's got to move down here. It's got to move into the heart. It's got to move into the body, into the felt experience. And that can only be known non-verbally and non-intellectually. And so the, the instructions are the fingers pointing at the moon, obviously, to use the worst of cliches. I mean, overworked cliche, but, just so I want to, welcome people in and give you guidance and give you, suggestions and sort of warm feelings. And then I just want to dump you in the deep end and say, like, you can do this, you'll find your way.
It's worked for me.
I mean, it's everybody's
So
got their own process. Yeah.
yeah, everybody has their process.
Yeah. But, people will sometimes say, oh, should I work with guided meditations or should I sit in silence? I'm like, well, guided meditations are great. And you want to get some sense of how to manage this and some tools and some approaches, techniques. But at a certain point, you've just got to be left alone. You got to take away the training wheels and find your own balance.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for chiming in. Appreciate folks showing up. This is not the easiest time in human history, but I'm not sure there have been any easy times in human history. I mean, I will say in my usual Tuesday, because the power was out, I was kind of like didn't have a lot of time this morning because I was like looking, looking for the lamps and things. Anyway, I did before I came down, I was like, oh, let me quick look at the science section because I mentioned this, I think last week, how the science section in the New York Times is always on Tuesday. And so there was a story in the New York Times science section that deaths from alcohol have doubled since between the year 2000 and the year 2022. Death by alcohol has doubled from about 25,000 to 50,000 deaths a year. So just, for you, if you need more motivation to not drink and use, you're increasing your likelihood of dying. Okay. Wow. Oh, Jeff, that's nice to see. Jeff, you should come tonight. You harass me at the monastery. All right. So
never harass.
Well, I mean, lovingly harass. Let me just put it that way.
Okay, I'm for that.
Yeah, well, I see you're using your years as a long haul truck driver as metaphors for your meditation. That's good. Thank you. All right, folks. Again, I appreciate people showing up. This Friday is also Spirit Rock, and I know people are dropping off, but I've been talking to them about two things. Maybe being live, or maybe not every time, but so if people are interested in that, again, I know a lot of you are not in the Bay Area, but the other thing is they are suggesting having it the second Friday Spirit Rock class be earlier in the evening, 6 o'clock or 5:30. So if you're interested in that, we're going to do a poll this Friday night in the Dharma and Recovery class. Spirit Rock, Dharma and Recovery. It's on their website. It's on my website if you're looking for it. I don't know if it's in the chat. It doesn't need to be. People can find it. So come and participate. Be interested. More people have been coming to this class than coming to Spirit Rock class, which is interesting since Spirit Rock is, got a very wide reach in terms of their website. So in any case, hope to see all of you. And of course, the 29th, the December 29th is a hybrid day long at Spirit Rock. So that'll be my first time there in person in 5 years. So if you're around, or just fly in for that, Anyway,
what day is that?
That's Sunday, the 29th.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, folks, I'm going to hang out with Steve for a little while. And so I will say adieu, adios, and all the other hasta la vista.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Adios.
Thanks, Ken.
Bye, everybody. See you Tuesday.
Ma'asalama.
Oh, wow,
Good.
no,
Good.
we're getting deep.
Thanks, Kevin. Great. Always.
Thanks, Monica. Appreciate your help.
Thanks, Monica.